Running for governor in Illinois is Daniel Biss, and he is a state senator there, and he's running up against a billionaire, or perhaps if you count the Republican, a couple of billionaires. Daniel, I don't know if you know this, but progressives all across the country are buzzing about you. So welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, and I saw one of your speeches, and I was like, I see why they're buzzing. Okay, look. First of all, my one concern with you though is I'm not sure you've got the proper education. I mean, undergrad degree from Harvard, PhD from MIT in math, and assistant professor of math at University of Chicago. I mean, why did you decide not to go to any good schools?
Listen, I was lucky. I was fortunate, and I had this dream. I was going to be a math professor, and it was working out for me. But I got there, and 6 months later, we went off to war in Iraq because we had a president lying to us. And I just thought I wasn't going to hang out in the math department and solve math problems that I thought were really interesting while the country was spinning out of control and not do anything. So I started knocking on doors and fell in love with organizing. And one day found myself, after having organized thousands of people in campaigns and issue efforts, running for state legislature. And I've been there since 2011.
So you're running against Bruce Rauner eventually. He's the Republican governor of Illinois. It drives me crazy when states like Illinois have Republican governors. So bless your heart on that. But now a lot of people are, there's I think about 5 Democrats in the race that people are talking about. So why you as opposed to the other Democrats?
So listen, Bruce Rauner, our Republican governor, it shouldn't just drive you crazy that we have a Republican governor, though that's terrible. We've got like a uniquely awful Republican governor. He was Trump before Trump was Trump. He was a venture capital billionaire, no experience, just wanted to bust unions, put in insane amounts of money to basically buy the governor's office in 2014. And then the whole country went and elected Trump following in this path. The state of Illinois has been a total train wreck since then. And now the Democratic Party gets to decide, are we gonna do something sane about it, or are we gonna do something crazy about it? And a lot of the Democrats in Illinois, unfortunately, have concluded that the only way to get elected anymore is by being a billionaire. And so I'm running against 2 guys in the Democratic Party. One is literally a multi-billionaire, J.B. Pritzker, the heir of the Hyatt fortune. He's already put $42 million into this campaign. And one is Chris Kennedy, son of Bobby Kennedy, a multi-millionaire. He's already put in over $1 million in his own campaign. And I think the question we got to ask is, do Democrats want to do that too? Or do we want to elect a progressive? Do we want to elect a middle-class person who actually understands what the choices that government imposes on people mean? Do we want to follow the footsteps of the Republicans and at the very, very best not do some of the awful stuff they're doing? Or do we want to actually push for progressive governance? And that question is 100% on the ballot in the Democratic primary here in Illinois in March of 2018. We could just sort of pick our own billionaire who's like a lot nicer than the Republican billionaire and then not change much. Or we could actually elect a real progressive and fight for universal health care and fight for free college tuition and fight to tax the financial sector fairly.
Yeah.
But there's only one candidate in the race who's going to do that.
So Daniel, I hear, and I hope this isn't too much of a gotcha question, but you say J.B. Pritzker put $42 million of his own money into the race, but I have it on good authority that you also put $25 of your own money into the race.
Busted. And it's actually worse than it sounds because my wife also put in $50. So we've contributed a total of $75 of our own. And, so I guess it's all part of the same game. But seriously, we have been able to raise serious money, millions of dollars, by having literally thousands and thousands of people from hundreds of towns across Illinois contribute. And when I got in this race, people were like, dude, you seem like a nice guy, but this is not gonna work. You're running against a billionaire, you're running against a Kennedy, it's just hopeless. And thousands of people have come to this campaign because of what actually having a progressive government in Illinois would mean for people. We've got 9 weeks left, and it's a chance to actually strike a blow for, yes, progressive governance, but also getting some of the disgusting money out of politics.
So let's talk about that for a second. I'm going to come back to what it would mean to have a progressive governor in Illinois in a second. But I know Larry Lessig supports your candidacy, and he's the godfather of the getting money out of politics movement. So that's terrific. And putting the kidding aside about putting 25 bucks in to your campaign, which you did, right? But you only make 70K a year, and I get it. How in the world did you raise the $3.1 million? And I don't know what your policy on PACs are. Do you take corporate PAC money, or is it all small donors? How does that work?
I don't have any corporate PAC money at all. It's almost entirely individuals and incredible number of small donors. I think our average grassroots contribution in the last quarter was $31. It was many thousands of contributions. And I do it partially by working hard, but mostly by having this incredible network of people around the state who are asking their friends to chip in and help out and spreading out that network one layer at a time. And there used to be a time when raising $3.1 million for a campaign was like, okay, you're done. That's an insane amount of money we should stop raising. But now we're in this new world where somebody who's worth $3.7 billion puts in $42 million of his own, and it's completely changed the conversation. And I think we've got to use this race as a tool to change the conversation back.
Is there any polling in the race yet?
There hasn't been polling for a really long time. We actually just went up on TV a week ago yesterday because of all the money that we've been able to raise from grassroots donors. And we think that's going to change the narrative significantly. But basically what we see is a three-way race where you've got a billionaire, a multi-millionaire, neither one of whom has been in government before, neither one of whom has fought for progressive issues before, and someone who lives a middle-class life, has a record of fighting for progressive causes, and has actually laid out a progressive vision for Illinois and shown what it would do for ordinary people if we could get it done.
So yeah, for me, it's not personal. I don't know anything about Chris Kennedy or J.B. Pritzker. They're Democrats. They're probably generally good folks. But you want to get money out of politics, and you're talking and walking the walk. So I appreciate that. I care about the policies. So that's point one. Then tell us what the other points are as to what would be the difference in your strong progressive stance versus theirs.
Well, there's some really fundamental things. I'm for universal health care, single payer. They're not. I'm for taxing financial transactions because, to get into the weeds a little bit, Illinois got Chicago. It's one of the biggest financial centers in the country, right? The Chicago Board of Trade and the Mercantile Exchange. When we think about how over the course of the last few decades, the wealth is concentrated into a few hands and the financial sector has ballooned and the rest of us have been left behind, a lot of that's happening in Chicago. And if we in Illinois were to actually tax that sector of the economy fairly, number one, massive change in economic justice in our tax code. But number two, then you've got the resources to fund a government we believe in. So now you can afford single payer healthcare and you can afford free college tuition. And so these are things we could actually eventually do. It's going to be a heavy lift. It's going to be a hard political fight, but these are things that the state of Illinois could do and then lead the country in moving towards single payer. But instead, the other guys in this race are sort of making excuses for why it's not possible. No, we shouldn't tax financial transactions. No, we shouldn't close the carried interest loophole. No, we shouldn't fight for single payer. Yeah, I know it's the right thing, but it's too hard, so don't bother. And that's what got us here.
I often hear corporate Democrats saying, oh no, if you do that, the voters won't vote for you. And I always think like, wait, finish the sentence. Because they love the banks so much? No, they're worried about their donors. If you do a financial transaction tax, that affects almost all the donors. So that's what spooks them, and that's why they don't want to propose that. My guess is it's going to play really well with the voters. And I'm talking about not just the primary, but the general election.
Bingo, that's exactly right. Democrats and Republicans and independents all know that the financial sector has gotten a tiny number of people insanely rich, and that's where we should be focusing our energies when it comes to taxes. It's not the voters who don't like it, it's a few donors. And the question is, who are we going to listen to? And we know who the Republicans are going to listen to. So now the question is, are the Democrats going to follow in that path or not?
So, by the way, if you want to help Daniel, and we're clear about our perspective here, we've got links for you guys. And if you're watching this on YouTube, those links will be, of course, in the description box. You can just click on them. Time is always the most important thing. So volunteers, warriors beat mercenaries. You could beat their lobbyists. But if you don't have the time, then obviously small donor money makes a big difference. And then on Facebook, it'll be in the comment section. But if you win, Daniel, you'd be a governor. That's a little different than obviously at the federal level where a lot of these issues are playing out. So at that state level, one thing sticks out to me. There's plenty of others, as you explained, healthcare and others, but criminal justice reform. That's where you could actually have a tremendous impact. So what's your proposals there?
So my running mate, Leticia Wallace, and I have laid out a bold criminal justice reform agenda, and it is from the beginning to the end. And it starts with fundamental sentencing reform, legalizing recreational use of marijuana, ending the racist war on drugs and treating drug use like a public health problem that it is, making sure that mental health and substance abuse treatments are available inside the criminal justice system, making sure that upon re-entry we've removed bars to employment, that we get rid of the racist cash bail system that criminalizes poverty. And then when we've done all these things, because of decades of mass incarceration, there's going to be generations of people still incarcerated who shouldn't. And then we have to be really, really aggressive about using the governor's clemency and commutation powers to retroactively solve the problem that's been created by completely broken policies for a long time. This is a big deal. It's about social justice. It's about racial justice. It's about economic justice. And it's about having a state that's budget is not focused on locking people up, but instead on lifting people up.
All right, Daniel Biss running for governor in Illinois. And I'll be watching with interest, and I think a lot of our audience will, because one, if they're rooting for you, of course, then that's relevant. But two, it's just a really interesting race. Can a guy who had no money and come in here against a couple of really, really wealthy people supported by the Democratic establishment and take him down in a primary and then win the general election? So in a sense, the whole country's watching you, Daniel. So
listen, no pressure. I appreciate the time to talk. And I actually agree. I think this is a litmus test question for the soul of the Democratic Party and for the question of money in politics. And so folks are watching, come visit our website, danielbiss.com, follow us on social media. We want your time. We'd certainly accept your grassroots contributions. And we also want you to spread the word to others. I don't have $42 million to buy television commercials, but when people talk to people, that matters the most.